Hi, welcome to the How She Made It series. I am Tiffany Scott, the founder of Sister Suppers, and today we have the amazing Meshell Baker with us. She is a vision mastery strategist, and she has this amazing gold medal on right now. We were just talking about it because she just ran and completed the New York Marathon. Meshell, welcome. Thank you so much for just for being here and showing your grace and your big smile. It's so good to see you. Please introduce yourself and share who you are, why you do what you do, and more about your story, please.
Oh, thank you. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for having me here. Absolutely fabulous from the first time I met you. I tell people I go with that intuitive intuition where when I meet certain people, I get tingling. And Tiffany, oh man, she had me tingling from head to toe. So I am so honored to be here. And I am Meshell Baker. I am a keynote speaker. I'm actually a vision strategist and a sales advisor. So what I do is I actually work with people to help them create a compelling vision. I tell people my tagline is I help you create a vision so powerful your past gets jealous. And everything, it's the linchpin for everything. The reason we don't have what we want in our life is because we haven't given our mind a target. We haven't given it a target so powerful that it pulls us up past the pain and the problems and the scarcity and the setbacks and the mistakes and all the woulda, shoulda, couldas. And that's what I really empower and I guide people. I can't create it for you, but I can help you uncover it. I can help you find it buried amidst all what life has thrown at you, and is it currently throwing at you, so we can pull that out, sharpen it up and get it to shine so brilliantly. It's the only thing you see.
Yeah, and I love that you share that, because I totally agree with what you're talking about. You've got to be clear on what your vision is so you can create it. And you're the living, breathing example of that. Like I the same for me when I met you. I remember meeting you. We met at an event here in Austin, Texas, and I was trying to work out the coffee machine, and she was like, "Move aside. I'll fix." I don't know if you remember that. And I was like, who is this goddess? She's amazing. And you greeted me with this big, like, buxom smile that you have that I love so much. And we started immediately, just clicked and started talking about creating vision and creating the life that you want. And then lo and behold, like, I think it was like a couple of months later, you're like, I'm going to do the New York Marathon. And I love what you were just talking about just before we got on, where you were saying you woke up and you knew you had to do it, and then you got scared, and then you knew you had to do it even more, right? Like the seed was planted, and you said, I can't remember exact words, but you're like, I no longer want to live in fear, or I'm tired of being scared, or I don't live with that feeling of being scared anymore. So I'm just going to do it. So, and I believe that's like, you just are the epitome of living that. So share about your experience and showing up and doing the training and doing the New York Marathon and finishing it, and the before and after, because it's so synchronistic with everything that you do.
Right. Well, so again, and the reason was, it was that moment where I knew, when I recognized it was something I wanted to do, my immediate second thought was, oh my God, it terrified me. The third thought was, you got to do it now. Because again, I'm exhausted of living a life of fear, right? And I know that anyone watching this, you have those exhaustions too. And maybe not be exhausted, but you have some areas in your life that are frustrating you. And it's because no one has actually taught us how to go about doing things that are great for our lives, how to actually create within ourselves this internal inspiration that fuels you in the midst of circumstances, situation, and people. We are taught to look for this comfort and this safety. I have a job, I have a husband, I have kids. And so everything about the marathon was teaching me that, things kept coming up where I had the option to choose out of training. I had the option. I remember there were days I woke up and I thought, oh man, like you can see my eyes darting, because that was, my thoughts were racing, like I really don't want to train. But I had created such an accountability
Yeah.
around it.
How did you do, what was your accountability? Tell us about
So
that.
first and foremost, once I recognized that I wanted to do it, I said it out loud to myself. And then I said, well, I'm going to do this because I don't want to be afraid, right? So once I set that intention and I was crystal clear on it was something I was going to do, I was a part of a group, and there was this woman on the call who got on, and she has climbed like 5 of the 7 peaks in the world. She's jumped out of helicopters and went surfing. She's this extreme athlete, and she was hesitant to start a coaching business on health. I'm like, so I opened my mouth and said, beta test me. Like, if you don't think you can do this, let me be your beta test.
Brilliant.
Right? Because in that moment, I was like, there's my answer, right? And I tell people, I no longer go out and try, find the answer. I actually have conversations with universe, God, source, goddess, Buddha, whatever you want to call it. This is what you placed on my heart. So you're the infinite one. Bring me or show me or guide me. And I go on with my life, and it appears. It feels magical, but once you do it, you are aligned and in unison. So it recognized that going out to that date. So now I had a target, I had a date, and then you back into it, right? So what needs to happen every day, consistently, persistent, on an ongoing basis, so that I can make this target. The number one thing was, you gotta get up and run.
Did you run before you started? Were you running before?
No, I had last year and I think it was last October, I had been so frustrated with attempting to create a habit of exercise that I got up every day and I said, I'm just going to do 15 minutes. I was like, what's the smallest common denominator that I can do every day where I know I have done something and it'll just help me. So I was like, just create the habit and the results will come.
Yeah.
And this is what no one teaches us. They keep telling you how to do something, right? And that's willpower. That's why it becomes frustrating and overwhelming, because you keep talking about what you're doing. And that's exhausting. A habit means you don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
You don't need to remember it. It's just who you are. And that's what I've learned to master. And that's what I teach and what I speak on and how I guide everybody that I work with, is to create the habit, right?
Yeah.
But but I didn't, no. What did you do, right? It's just the littlest common denominator. So I started walking 15 minutes every day. It was 68 days and I got sick. But by the end of that 68 days, I recognized that I wanted to run. I started running. I was bored with walking. I was like, you see, that's what I am. Like, if you've ever seen me, I'm looking at my legs, like, what are you doing? And then the next thing I know, I'm at some conference and the person is talking about this nun, Sister Mary Martyr, and she started she had run the equivalent. She started running when she was 48. She was 86 at the time, and she had run the equivalent of 1 marathon a month. From the time she was 48 till she was 86. And she started at 48, and I was like, around that age, and I was like, well, I really don't have an excuse, right? And it was that experience of, you will either find reasons why you can't, or you'll find things that give you your results. There's enough references now where if you look hard enough, you can find something that will empower you, encourage you, and ignite you to keep going, or you'll stay in your small zone. Tell somebody next to you or somebody you know who's never experienced anything, who's never done what you're looking to succeed, and you'll just find more excuses and alibis and justify why you can't.
Yeah.
So when you really, really want something, you must go out your comfort zone to find a compelling reference of why you can.
Yeah, and that's how growth happens. That's how we grow as people, right? And we grow our confidence and blow our minds by what we can create and experience. And that's what life's about. So I want to hear more about your journey. Like, what got you on this path of being this master of creating not only your own vision, but the vision, and then helping people step into it and create it for themselves as well?
Oh, wow. So I'll give you a synopsis. I was my birth was the result of 2 teenagers who rumbled in a Chevy and got pregnant. So there was a shotgun wedding in the South, Louisiana, to be honest. And so my first recognition of life at 4 was my family telling the story of my mother crying through the whole ceremony, begging them not to make her marry my dad. So I was the oldest. And at that time, as I got older and there was violence and alcoholism and all this stuff, so I used to think for years it was my fault. If I hadn't been born, this wouldn't be happening. So that mistake, that belief that I was a mistake turned into me being incarcerated by the time I was 20. I made a mistake, right? Because what you focus on, you find. Whatever you constantly think about, whatever thought you constantly hold in your mind, you will create. Yeah. And I kept thinking I was a mistake, so I made a mistake. And it was the greatest gift I gave myself, because in that short period of time, I was in an environment where I knew, oh, yeah, I'm not a criminal. Yeah.
Noted.
What's up?
Oh my God.
Never going back. So what it allowed me to do was establish the standard, because I got out and I could only get like awful jobs because you're checking the box that you're incarcerated. So so my path to create a life that I love was doing the best with what I had wherever I was in the moment. Yeah. No excuses. This is the job. This is this is what you created this, so you get to do something to get yourself out. And what I recognized was because I showed up early, I stayed late, I kept my commitment. Like I tell people, whatever the commitment was for whatever that role was I said I would play, I kept it. Yeah. I didn't go in and start complaining after I had just interviewed and gave them a commitment of who I would be. I kept the commitment of who I would be. And then I tell people I gave them more than they ever expected. So that led to more opportunities and promotions, and it left. So anywhere I went, I've always had amazing references in my life and referrals and recommendations. And I really have created a life that I tell people, create a life that loves you for being you. So I get to just be me because the standard of me blesses other people.
Oh my God, that's a quotable. That's amazing. I love you. You're so inspiring.
And this is what I teach people. Everybody's trying to do something. I'm like, you don't have to try to do anything. That's exhausting. Just learn who you want to be and be someone of value, and life gets so easy.
So what, I love that story. I love you. You're amazing. That's why I have you on here. I just want to spread your love everywhere, and that smile and that laugh. So what was the transition from going from being employed to becoming your own business leader and helping others?
So I relocated to Austin in 2011. And it was literally 3 days after the only guy I ever wanted to marry had died, right? And I didn't know what else to do. I just knew how to function. I knew how to work, and I was always good at work, and I had never had anyone that close to me or that one I loved that much pass away in my life. So I was just like stunned. So I just went to work and got a job and kept working. And before I knew it, I was having general anxiety disorder and suicidal ideation. So I got out of work. And at that time, when I came back, I stepped in. So I did the work on self. I did, so it allowed me to go introspective, the thing that could have been the worst thing, because at that point, I was so devastated I didn't want to live. And I remember thinking, because my vision for my life was him. And I had never thought about anything outside of him. And he was just gone. He got sick, and 2.5 months later, he was dead. And when I decided that I was going to live, I decided that I was going to live. And if I was going to live, I was going to live. And that's what I've been doing. And it's been a slow progression. And as I did that, I recognized and I saw outside of myself other people. My sister was in Dallas, and she was legally blind at the time, which are visual impairments. And there's a blind adult school in Austin. So she came down, and then once school was about to be over, I was like, well, do I send her back to my parents? I was like, well, no, she's built a life here. And I was like, oh, you're meant for more. You're meant to take on your sister as the caregiver. And it was that I can remember that moment in the kitchen. I had made cupcakes to take up to the school because she was in this dorm program as an adult with all these other adults, and they're having a blast. And she got to go to college like I did, right? And live the dorm life. And I'm so happy, like I've done this, and I'm happy because I've loved on my sister. And I tell people, God, because I gave this massive gift of love, I got the gift of life. I later went to a conference, met a woman who introduced me to an entrepreneurial meeting with eWomen Network Austin chapter. I heard a woman speak on purpose.
Ah,
And purpose was the perpetual goal. I had been chasing stuff and status. I want a job, I want a house, I want a husband. I was looking for things that had an end date so I would get them and then I'd immediately be depressed.
yeah.
Because
Yep.
I didn't have anything driving me, fueling me, igniting me to go outside my comfort zone and to continue to grow. And purpose is just who you are, and you get to have this goal of just becoming better at you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. There's another quotable. Oh my God.
So and that's what happened. So I stepped out of my comfort zone to help my sister, and then it was introduced as like you could the dominoes. So now I'm watching at the more intentional I became at being valuable to a purpose greater than me, the more I attracted opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the things that you continue to use, and maybe some tips that you can share with the people that watch and listen this around actually like one, getting clear on the vision, and two, what are the steps that you do to bring that vision to life? And now I know that's a loaded question because there's so much in that, but in a short amount of time, some best tips and practices, some tangible things.
So one of the things that I actually do is I invest in myself. I saw a quote, and I think it was on Sarah Blakely's feed, and it was invest in yourself to the point where someone else wants to invest in you. And it was one of those succinct things that I committed to memory because it's basically such a truism. What we see now is we see people who promise you 6 figures after 6 weeks. It's not going to happen. If you've never done any prior investment in yourself, it will not happen.
Yeah.
Right? It demands that you invest in yourself until you believe in yourself so much that you're communicating that belief to someone else. So one of the things I do is I understand that we're conduits. As human beings, garbage in, garbage out. So if you want greatness to come out, greatness must go in, and it must be saturated. So free time, when people complain about traffic, that's a great opportunity. I call my car the University of Meshell, right? My RV is the University of Meshell. So I'm constantly listening to something that inspires me, ignites me, excites me, so that when I meet other people, I'm not telling people what to do. I'm actually engaging them in a conversation and offering them an opportunity, right?
And
So
you're
I've
being
learned.
that person.
Yes.
You're showing up and being that person.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So it's understanding that everyone has something amazingly unique about them in the world to give.
Yeah.
And when you understand what that is, you don't want to not give it away, right? And when you know what it is, you don't tell other people. So my what I actually share with people, one of the greatest things you can do is to take time for yourself every morning and do not jump up and look at emails and all these things. Calibrate yourself to your why first thing in the morning. So as you go out in the day, when distractions and deterrences and delays and dissuasions and all those things come at you, you can keep your vibration, your polar pole to your why, and you'll know that it's just a distraction, and it doesn't bother you as much because you're not looking for things to be perfect. You have set yourself so you can flex and adapt accordingly, because the one constant in life is change.
Yeah,
Change
absolutely.
is constant.
Yeah, that's
right. So
true.
First thing in the morning, I say 15 minutes a day is less than 1% of your day. If you're not willing to invest the first 15 minutes of your day to yourself, you do not want what you say you want. And I will not waver on that. You do not want what you say you want.
Yeah, right on. I love that. And you're also talking about, investing in yourself is it's a commitment to you, right? You're showing up for you. And when you're investing in yourself, whether it's time, like 15 minutes a day, or financial investment, or making sure that you're filling your brain with the right stuff when you've got, when you're in a car or you're on a plane or whatever it is, that expands your container, that expands your growth container, that expands your ability to be more confident, to love yourself more, to know yourself more, and like you, show up as that person. For the most part, that's often all we need to do. We think we need to go out and do this and do that and make money and get clients and speak on stages, and those things are great. They're great. But if we just all fully be the best we are, and that's why I just adore you from the moment I met you, you really do be you. and you know it, and you
Yeah.
live it, and you breathe it, and you show up that way. And she's so infectious, and so many people in Austin, Texas know who Meshell is. Like, you know, she's kind of everywhere, which is awesome. And that is often enough to create what you want as well, because when we're living in that place of being, of joy, of happiness, of expansion, of love, all the synchronicities, like you were talking about before, the dominoes start to fall into place.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So it is about, we've been taught. And so this is what I tell people. It's not your fault. Conditioning. We are models, right? We model what we've seen. And if you've never been in an environment of someone who is incredibly uber successful or has had and experienced the success you want on a consistent, ongoing basis, there's no reason you would know how or what to do on a daily basis. So it is not your fault. And it is your responsibility to go out and find and acquire and become relentless about the pursuit of your success. And the only reason you'll do that is if it's something you really want. So validating what you want and why you want it is how you find that compelling drive to go in the midst of all the challenges, circumstances, difficulties, the obstacles, the naysayers, the fears, the doubts. Oh, because they're coming. This is the one thing that's not, you're never going to not have those. Those feelings are going to exist for the rest of your life because it's meant to exist so that you know that you've done something amazing for you in the midst of it. That's where confidence comes from. This is why people become uber successful, because they get high off of facing their fear because they know fear is not real.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also agree with, like, I always talk about, like, we really live in a world of contrast, you know, that's the, you know, of polarity. So up, down, black, white, you know, happy, sad, there's all those things. And how do you know if you're succeeding if you don't know what, you know, the other side looks like? So you're going to have failures, you know, you're going to have tough times, you're going to have the humps, you're going to have the self-doubts. But if you don't have those things, how do you know that you're creating what you really want to create? So embrace those moments. You know, like you said, when you got up and you realized, you know what, you got the hit, I'm going to do a marathon. I'm going to do the New York Marathon. And then you're like, oh shit, right? But then you're like, okay, that means I have to do it. How would you be living in the success of wearing the medal right now if you're just like, yeah, I'll just do it. That'll be easy. That's fine. You wouldn't even enjoy the journey. No. So we got to live through the fear and the, you know, the self-doubt and those sorts of things. They will be there. I think as we grow and as we expand, they become less of a monkey on our back and just a recognition of like, yep, I see you. I love on you. You're fine. I know you're trying to predict me. I'm going to do it anyway, you know? So it becomes less paralyzing. So I totally agree with you. I love what you're talking about. That's always going to be there. Don't try and suppress that or hide that or try and get it to go away. It's going to be there, and be okay with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So in the work I do, my specialty, I tell people what I would say I specialize in is self-talk. I am a master at helping you turn that inner voice critic into your champion and your cheerleader. Right? Because I used to just annihilate myself, right? All the circumstances of abuse and all the things I went through and the shame I heaped on myself. I shamed me before you could ever shame me for years, right? I told myself no before anyone had even said no, right? So I have like a myriad of mistakes that I've made or things I didn't step into because of the way I talk to myself. And then when I recognized that I had control over the committee in my head and like I could create the committee where it worked on my behalf, I was like, oh, this is fun, right? So, and again, it is conditioning. You have been conditioned. The chances of being born are 1 in 14 trillion. You are designed to succeed. You've been conditioned by your environment to fail. But the beautiful part about that is if you've been conditioned, you can recondition yourself. It's work, but it's so worth it. And you're working anyway. You're working on complaining and fearing and doubting and talking about what you can't do and what you don't have. You're doing it every day anyway. And if you take the steps now, before you know it, you'll wake up and you'll be like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's building a new habit. Like you said,
Yes.
it's a reconditioning, and
Yep.
it feels like it's a disease in our society, in our culture with people. Like it's this conditioning of like things are hard, things are not good enough. There's something always, something always wrong. But I do feel like with people like you, the work that we're doing, when we connect with ourselves, when we do the meditations, when we do the affirmations, when we connect with spirit, God, universe, Buddha, whoever that is, whoever your guiding light is, when we do that as individuals, the more we do that, the more we be, the more that we show, the more we can spread that for other people as well. And we can change the whole dimension of
Yes.
this paralysis.
Yeah, the polarity. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Right. And that's again, when the world becomes 51% or more positive, all these ills and this war and these angst that we're experiencing,
Disease.
it goes away.
Yeah.
Right. And I tell people, many people think they're positive, right? Because, oh, I treat people and I do this and I do that. The most of the time you spend in your day is in your thoughts. And if
Yeah.
you're spending your thoughts thinking ill about people, wondering why they got it and she shouldn't have it and that's fair and she's not good enough and who is that? And most of your time is in your thoughts. And until those become positive, you will not attract and have a positive life.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. I've been the living, breathing example of that in my life. Like, and it's again, like I catch myself, like even when I'm standing in the line at the grocery store and I'm like, oh gosh, hurry up. Why are you taking so long? And then I'm like, oh, there I go again. Like that's pointless.
Yes.
I've got time, it's
Yes.
fine. It's just
Yes.
those little nuances that we can
Yeah.
continue to catch ourselves on.
Yep. So
The more easily we can move through life and the
right.
more joy that we
So
have.
prime example of the grocery store line. I used to have that same. So I see that all these little triggers that cause me to go negative. So grocery store lines don't bother me because I have a grocery store game I play where I just basically I call it harassing, but it's not really. I just kind of like whoever's around, I just start chatting them up.
I bet you do.
Yeah, like, hey,
Yeah.
what you doing? Like, oh, is that article good? And they'll look at me. I'm like, oh, you don't know me, but trust me, you're lucky to be in line next to me. That's the kind of stuff I'll say because then it really, like that person's like, what? I'm like, no, put the magazine down. Talk to me for a couple minutes. You'll find out. Right. So there's little things that I do that are just random stuff I say to people and all day long because it keeps me calibrated to that space of joy. Because the goal or the desired outcome is just to leave joy or leave the place better off for having been there, or the person better off for having engaged or interacted with me. So that means that I don't get to say how because the universe, God, source knows what they need. I don't. So whatever prompting comes up, I've learned to trust it. Like, you want me to do what? Right? That's what it used to be. Now it's just like I see what happens and I get giddy because I don't know what they're going to get. I don't know what their reaction is going to be. So I get excited to see what happens to another person once they engage in my joy.
Oh, that's so fun. I love that. That's another quotable. Gosh, I've got to remember these. I get engaged and oh my gosh, and happy when I get to see what other people get from my joy. Yes, that's awesome. I love it. So how can people find you, stay connected with you, all that fun stuff?
So the easiest way to find me is my name, MeshellBaker.com, or you can do MeshellRBaker.com. And if you're watching this and you're, part of the tribe and you're like, you know what, I could really use some self-talk. Oh my God, just have it. The New Year's coming resolutions. I do have a women's group that's starting January 7th, but I'd say book a conversation with me. It's called a clarity conversation. You can find it on my website and let's talk because I always tell people I want to know and align you to what you need because sometimes the conversation isn't about you working with Meshell. It's about me referring you to someone. I tell people every conversation doesn't end up with me having a client and every conversation ends up with that person walking away clearer than they were before they talked to me. That's my gift of the world, clarity, because clarity is power. People think knowledge is power, but if you don't know
every day,
you have enough knowledge, you have a ton of information. You don't know how to implement or take action because you're not clear.
Yep,
And
totally. I'm with you. All about clarity. And it's Meshell. So it's Meshell Baker.com. Or is
yes,
it rbaker.com?
it's either
No.
one. So
Okay.
I'm that person that bought both and pointed them in one
Oh,
direction.
good girl. Good girl. Awesome. Well, thank you, my love, for coming on. I'm just so excited to share you with my community, and I can't wait to see you again soon. I love the shining
Yay!
light, bright that you are, and bright light that you are. And it's such a pleasure to share your wisdom. I feel like we could talk for hours and hours,
I
but
know, right?
we'll do that over coffee another time. Thank
Yes.
you so much.
Yes.